Well, every pharmacy student has a background story. I have too. Studying pharmacy was never in my list, although it was always my plan to become a healthcare professional. So right after my A-levels, when I was contemplating as to which way I wanted to direct my career to, pharmacy was never an option for me because I didn't even know what pharmacy was. I didn't even know that the subject existed. So my first preference was always to become a doctor. However, as luck or ill luck would have it, one of my uncles suggested me to get into pharmacy, mainly because he said, according to him, it had a very good job prospect right after graduating. However, now I realize he couldn't have been more wrong. So this is my story of how I got into the pharmacy. My name is Khaza Adnan. I was a student of Pharmacy Department of East West University and I used to be in 2008 through batch. Right after my graduation, I started my career in pharmaceutical marketing where I worked for about 4 years. My first workplace was Sanofi, where I worked in the product management department for 2 years. And then I joined Healthcare Pharmaceuticals Limited in strategic marketing department, where I worked for 2 more years. And currently, I'm doing my Masters of Teaching Secondary in Western Sydney University, Australia. And I'm currently in my 3rd semester. How Australia happened? Well, going abroad has always been at the back of my mind. It has always been my aim to go to a Western country for my higher studies. So my first attempt to go abroad was right after my graduation in 2013. I wanted to go to the USA, which I managed to offer letter and everything, but unfortunately had my visa application refused. And that was mainly because of the political turmoil that the country was going through during that moment of time. So when I got into job, I kind of got into sort of a comfort zone and didn't think much about going abroad for a good few years. But towards the end of 2016, I was contemplating on as to how I want to direct my career. So that's when the thinking started, and my options were always to go to an English-speaking country. So the options were pretty much narrowed down to either England, Canada, or Australia. So Australia happened first, and that's how it just happens. So what are the options of a student who has completed his or her graduation from a Bangladesh university in pharmacy, if he or she is willing to go to Australia? Well, there are several options. You can either get into Master of Pharmacy, or you can get into Master of Pharmaceutical Sciences, Master of Biotechnology, or if teaching career is something that you're willing to explore, then the Masters of Teaching is an option as well. In this part of the video, I would mainly be talking about the overall suitability of Australia for international students for higher studies and what are the facilities, scholarship opportunities, as well as I would basically be putting down the positives and negatives of going for higher study in Australia. It's just up to the individual to determine if the pros outweigh the cons or not. Things that impressed me most about Australia was number 1 has to be the living standard. It's absolutely impeccable. Number 2 would be the standard of the education over there. Australia is now becoming more popular for international students as a destination for higher studies. Number 3 for me would be the weather, as it was one of the deciding factors for me to go to Australia, as the weather over there does not go to the other extremes. It does get quite hot during summer and quite cold during the winter, but it doesn't go to the extremes of the temperatures. And number 4, I would say the people. The people over there are quite friendly and easygoing. And I'll take this opportunity to thank a friend of mine who actually made my life very easy over there and helped me settle down. And I know you'll be watching this video, so thank you, Zoe. The first factor to consider if you are willing to go to Australia for higher studies is the financial capacity. Because of the standard of living, the living expenses in Australia is quite high, and the tuition fee is quite high as well, unless you're able to manage a decent scholarship. Now, talking about scholarship, there are several scholarships available for international students. The first that comes to my mind would be the Australia Award Scholarship, which is awarded by the Australian government to international students of Asia Pacific, Middle East and African countries. So if you get one of the scholarships, you would be entitled to get full tuition free for subsided. You would also get your plane fare to travel and back to your country as well. And it probably covers part of your living expense as well. So it pretty much covers the entirety of your stay in Australia. However, one downside of getting that scholarship is that you won't be entitled to stay back in Australia after your studies. You have to come back as soon as you finish your studies. So the second scholarship that comes to my mind is the Research Training Program Scholarship, and that's awarded to students who are willing to undertake any degree that has research component to that. And that's also awarded by the Australian government. And any scholarship awarded by the Australian government requires you to come back to your country after the completion of a degree. And there is a new scholarship program that is upcoming from the year 2020 that's called the Destination Awards, and that will be awarded to only those students who are undertaking their studies in one of the regional areas of Australia that is away from the main cities. And the regional areas are mainly those areas of Australia which are still underdeveloped, and any student who is undertaking their higher studies in one of the regional campuses of any university in Australia would be entitled to get that scholarship. There are several scholarships awarded by the universities themselves. However, you cannot expect to get more than 50% of scholarship on your tuition fees. So the maximum you can expect to get is 50%, and the rest has to be incurred by the student him or herself. So that's pretty much the scholarship scenario at the moment. The details of the scholarship is available on every of the university websites, and I'll be talking a bit more details about how to apply for the scholarships in the next part of the video. If you're not able to manage any scholarship, the tuition fee for Australian universities would range around Australian dollars 30,000 to 40,000 depending on the university that you choose. So the most prestigious university in Australia would be the Group of 8, which includes the University of Melbourne, Australian National University, etc. The full list is on websites. So these are considered the most prestigious, and all except for the University of Adelaide are among the top 100 universities in the world in terms of ranking. So the tuition fee would be quite high in those universities, and the average tuition fee in those universities would be around 40,000 Australian dollars per year. And if you go for the mid-tier universities such as the Macquarie University, University of Technology, Sydney University, Sydney University, etc., the tuition fee would range at around 25,000 to 30,000 Australian dollars per year. And I would personally recommend going to one of the mid-tier universities because the quality of education does not vary much across the Australian universities. It's pretty much the same across all. So if you are not able to manage any scholarship and you have to incur both the tuition fee and the living expense, it is quite impossible to manage the entire amount just by doing part-time job over there. So you have to have a financial backup from your home country, and if you are willing to work hard enough and not discriminating much in different types of jobs, I would say you'll be able to manage around 50 to 75%, or if you're willing to go the extra mile, probably even 80% of the entire tuition fee, as well as the living expense. One of the positive sides of Australia, I would say, is the part-time job facilities. It is not that difficult to find a part-time job. And also Australia has one of the highest wage rates in the world. The minimum wage you can expect according to the minimum legal wage rate is $18.93 an hour, which is one of the highest in the world. And legally you're permitted to work 40 hours per fortnight, that is every two weeks, and the average is 20 hours per week during your semester. However, during semester break, which runs for about 3 to 4 months, so during that time you are eligible to work full-time. So one question that I commonly get is, if I have a low CGPA, do I have any opportunity of applying for higher studies in Australia or not? The answer to that is yes. And I'll be talking about the application process and the scholarship procedure and the options for pharmacy graduates of Bangladesh for higher studies in Australia in the next part of the video. So stay tuned, and thanks for watching till now.